Friends, I think we are living in very unusual times, and we are still trying to grope our way through what is to be done. Nobody really knows what is to be done. The guidelines keep changing. What is right, what is wrong keeps changing. Whether hydroxychloroquine is to be taken, everything is being debated and found out. New things are being found out. So that's why I thought now that we are thinking about allowing maids and drivers and other people inside the society, and now that the lockdown period is getting to an end, in fact, we probably have to be now even more careful, and we have to understand how to go ahead. Of course, you cannot live scared, and we have to start living our life, but what to do and how to protect ourselves. We have one of the leading experts in India, Dr. Sanjay Pujari. He's on the ICMR task force also. He has a lot of international work, and I know him well, and he's keen to give his expertise to us. So he will give a brief talk. It's not a talk or a presentation. Basically, it is to ask him questions. So first, he'll just begin by some basic things, and then you can ask whatever questions you have. In order to make it easy, if we have everybody's mics on, it will be too disturbing, and therefore I would prefer that you ask your questions in the question and answer section. You can type them. If somebody really wants to speak, you can raise your hand and write down, and we'll allow some people to speak maybe, but preferably I think that might just we might lose a lot of time in that. So I would prefer you ask your questions, let Dr. Pujari answer, and if there's still something you want to speak, then maybe at the end we'll do that. So let me request Sanjay, you can begin.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I hope I'm audible. At the outset, let me thank Dr. Kothari. As he has mentioned, things are extremely fluidic. The knowledge is evolving, and we are trying to adapt based on whatever information comes up in the medical field. So what I'm going to give you is some points which you have to really think about when you deal with COVID-19 in your daily lives. And for that, we need to really understand what is the real transmission of this virus, which we call as CoV-2. Now, as is shown here in this slide, this is an index patient. He may be having symptoms, he may not be having symptoms, and usually symptoms are respiratory. So this symptomatic individual can cough or sneeze, or if it's an asymptomatic person, they can talk or sing, and then that will release some droplets into the air which carry the virus. Now, once the droplets are in the air, if there is a close person-to-person contact, that is usually between 1 to 2 meters, a person can get infected by direct droplets getting deposited into the respiratory tract of the susceptible host, and lead to infection and subsequent disease depending on various characteristics. But there's another way by which the virus can be transmitted, and this is which is caused most panic really. And currently it is believed that this is perhaps not the major way that the virus is transmitted. The CDC yesterday, the American CDC yesterday released some information saying that perhaps person-to-person transmission is the most significant way by which the virus transmits, while contact transmission can happen, but it may not really be a significant proportion. So what happens to these droplets they are quite heavy. They settle on surfaces. So once they settle on surfaces, and if you're handling the surfaces with your hands, and if you take your hand to the face, either eyes, mouth, or the nose, the virus can be deposited into the respiratory tract and subsequently lead to infection. So this is how the cycle of transmission goes. And as I would really make you understand is keep these basic principles in mind, because all other interventions are based on how we know the virus, at least till date, gets transmitted. So we design interventions to prevent transmission, and that is something which can be done first that you can do. This is the summary: the direct respiratory transmission and the indirect contact transmission. Now, for preventing, the first thing you can do is mask the source. and the source can be masked so that those respiratory droplets do not travel far. Neither the amount of droplets which comes in goes down, and the amount which gets deposited on surfaces also goes down. So this is a fantastic way to try and prevent the virus from coming out of an individual to a significant proportion of the time. The second thing is, of course, person to person transmission cannot happen beyond a certain distance because the droplets just settle down because of their size or weight. And this is what we call physical distancing. Now, this is usually between 1 to 2 meters, while many people say it's 2 meters, but I think when you have a mask around, it can be between 1 to 2 meters. The third thing which you can do is, of course, mask yourself, and that can add a further level of protection in terms of these droplets getting deposited on the respiratory tract. So this is how very simply you can block the transmission of the virus from person to person. What do we do with droplets which come on and settle on environmental surfaces? We need to do environmental cleaning. We'll talk about it a little later, and maybe during the question answer, we can discuss that in detail. And of course, when you have your hands on those environmental surfaces, you're going to get contaminated with the virus. So you can focus, and you should focus on hand hygiene, which is very critical component of trying to desensitize the virus on the hand, so that once you take it to your mouth or to your face region, the virus is not there, and that will not be deposited, causing an infection. And then, of course, trying to avoid touching the faces. So this is essentially what is available as tools for preventing transmission. So you need to understand how transmission occurs and what are the tools that we have to prevent transmission right now. These are basically not drug-related tools, but simple prevention tools. And you need to really apply it in all social contexts that you may come across, at least till the time we have a vaccine. Now, this masking business, I think, has to be really focused on, because there has been a flip-flop on whether the community routinely needs to use vaccines. But now we very clearly know that masking can be really helpful. The main purpose of masking is predominantly that a person who's infected, that's a source control, by whatever means they are either coughing, sneezing, or talking, the virus cannot come out. So it's basically to prevent individuals from transmitting, and then the individual who's susceptible wearing the mask may have a small additional degree of protection. So it's basically source control. The universal masking is for source control, and it also helps in preventing acquisition to some extent. And this is very nicely demonstrated in this study. I have made it very simple. This was a study from Wuhan, in which there was a patient who was COVID positive. He was coughing and sneezing. He took a bus from his big city to his local district. And when he took the bus, he didn't realize that he needs to wear a mask. And what happened subsequently, that 5 out of 39 passengers who were in close contact, in closed area like the bus, got infected. But then when he went from his district to his county in a minibus, he suddenly realized that he needs to wear a mask. So he bought a mask and he wore the mask. And then what you see really is no passengers got infected. So very clearly, this is a publication in a scientific journal, which shows that how masking of a source control really prevents transmission of the virus in routine community setting, particularly when you have inability to maintain physical distancing. Because normally, if you have all of these interventions that I told you in combination, you would be able to have an additive effect and prevent the virus from getting transmitted. Now, we all know about this cotton masks that are being recommended, and are they really effective? Yes. So this is another study really. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but what it shows is there's no significant difference in the filtration efficiency. If you have a triple layered cotton mask, it's almost as similar as a medical mask, slightly less, but when they actually measured particle size, they really saw not much significant difference. So cloth masks in the community, particularly good triple layer cotton masks, would be useful tool for preventing the transmission of this virus. But you see, when you start telling people to wear masks, there are all kinds of ways in which people wear masks. And this is something which you should not be doing. I mean, you should be always covering the nose and not put it down. We see many people wearing masks like this. Some people wearing masks like this. It really makes no sense. Or keeping it above the chin as well. And then subsequently also many people wearing it very loosely. So as far as possible, trying to make it fit reasonably well is going to really help. So people need to also know how to wear the masks correctly. The second component I talked about is physical distancing, and one of the major ways by which the virus is transmitted, which we technically in medical parlance call as super spreading events, where majority of the transmission happens explosively, and that is in closed gatherings. So you have gatherings of people, and we have examples of that in India as well, where people are close together in closed spaces. That is something we need to avoid completely for a certain period of time henceforth. So parties and malls and wherever there is probably close congregation is something where there is a high potential for person to person transmission happening, needs to be avoided. And then maintaining physical distancing with masking on. So this I don't need to really retaliate. The second component is hand hygiene, which we never should forget, and that is either with soap and water or alcohol-based sanitizers. Now, if your hands are visibly soiled, you should use soap and water. And if your hands are dry, you can use alcohol-based sanitizer, which usually has 70%, 60 to 70% alcohol. And you need to rub it for a few till it's dry, so that you have the effect of disinfecting the virus. And this is something which not only will help us in preventing coronavirus, but many other infections. And I really expect that we would, with this upgrading the personal hygiene by repeated hand washing, are going to make a significant impact in majority of the other infections which are transmitted through this way as well. And finally, I think cleaning of the environment, the way we clean our houses, and now that it's something which we normally expect, that normal cleaning should really help us in trying to prevent the transmission of the virus. But people are recommending disinfecting environmental surfaces as well with household bleach or whatever. But even soap and water, I think, is a good way by which you can clean. But the important thing is things which we have not been really focused on cleaning, which are repeatedly touched surfaces, like say doorknobs or electrical switches, and all those things also need to be cleaned at least once or twice a day. So these are the various components. It's just an introduction, and the real issue is there's no need to panic really, but certainly we need to be cautious. And the way we live in terms of hygiene, the way we live in terms of masking, physical distancing are something which we are not used to really, but we need to focus on these aspects for a certain period of time, at least till, as I said before, a vaccine comes. So I think I will take questions, because I thought it's important to answer questions, and I'll try my best to answer questions. May not have answers for all of those, but let's see how we can deal with it.
Okay. Thank you, Sanjay. I will start by asking whatever questions are there. So now one is what so now we have maids coming into the society. One of the main questions is, do we need, what precautions do we take at the gate? So they are checking their temperature. They are asking, is there any history of illness? Are they coming from a quarantined area, etc.? Or do they have somebody with the disease next to them? That is one. Should we give them a fresh mask when they come into the society, or should we give them a fresh mask when they enter into your flat? Because when they walk into the society, that is an open space. So probably in that area, when they are walking, they are not going to infect. But once they enter into your flat, they are going to infect. So should we put the onus of giving the mask to the society security to give a mask, or should each person, the flat owner, give it to the maid who enters his house? What do you think?
Yeah, so there are two things here. One is transmission happens in closed spaces. So that is one thing. And the second thing is masking is better than no masking. Now, where we do masking is something perhaps all of you must decide. But what is happening at my place, at least I can tell you, is that I have two sets of cloth masks, which I give to my person who comes to my house, and he actually changes his community mask to the mask that I give him, and he uses it throughout the time that he is at my house, and then subsequently he only puts it in the washing, and next day he uses the second mask, and then he can rotate the mask. So that is perhaps ideal, but if it is not possible if it's not really possible for us to give our own masks to the people who are coming into our house, then it's better to have them masked with something rather than not having masks. So it all depends on your individual circumstances as well. The second important point I wanted to also emphasize is transmission is always two ways. So we need to not only consider that we are at risk from somebody, but somebody may be also at risk from us. And that is the reason when we are dealing with any people who are at close distances, then perhaps masking ourselves also may be important, or at least maintain a physical distancing while they are working, reduce the number of hours that they work in our homes, so that there is less likelihood, and make sure also that they wash their hands, if possible give them a pair of gloves, but I think that really doesn't matter much. But if they're handling disinfectants, for example, if you're disinfecting with household bleach, then they should wear gloves, because that can be quite irritable for the skin. So so I so essentially you need to really tailor it with these principles that I mentioned, and
So, can you say that? See, I think each one of us can do what you said, get one of these cloth masks, because either the society can give the cloth mask, but then the whole onus of cleaning those masks and giving back the mask of that person will become difficult. But in my own flat, if I keep two sets of masks for the maid who comes, ask her to wear it and wash it herself before going, that is much easier. I think that is a good idea which everybody can do.
Yeah.
Washing hands also, if they come in, as soon as they come in, if they go and wash their hands, then I suppose a lot of the transmission is taken care of.
Yeah.
What percentage of transmission can happen because of their hands, feet, or their clothes and other things? I think that's a very minor percentage.
Yeah, so roughly, as I said, CDC is currently saying that it's person-to-person transmission, and indirect transmission may be having a lower percentage, but that doesn't mean we should forget
Yes.
Hand hygiene. And again, we are talking about two ways here. I mean, it's not just the maid who has to do hand hygiene. It's we have to do repeated hand hygiene. So if at all there is a theoretical contamination that is happening because of the maid, then we are also washing our hands whenever we are touching any surfaces. But I think there is no need to really get very worried about this. It's not very, transmission doesn't happen very efficiently that way.
Okay. Can you again explain, because this is something which I think many people don't realize, that a mask is not for protecting you. The mask is for protecting other people from you. So,
yeah. So as I mentioned in my presentation, it's source control. The mask is basically for preventing, if somebody is infected, from depositing the droplets to a larger distance, then it physically blocks it. There is some evidence that a triple layer cotton mask, I showed it in another slide, that it may also have filtration efficiency. So it may be both ways, but mostly it is for us to be, if infected, not transmitting it to others. And that is purely a very responsible way to do it, because assuming that, everybody is potentially susceptible and possibly get infected, it's always better to wear masks, particularly when physical distancing, you are going into public places and all those things, particularly when physical distancing is not possible.
Like I was telling a friend of mine in his office, he said many people remove their mask because it's not comfortable and they work without removing the mask. And other people look at them, ki, okay, he's taking his own risk and he's removing his mask. He can't bear it. He can't tolerate it. It's his problem. But I think we have to emphasize that if somebody else removes his mask, he's putting you at risk. And so it is your job to make sure that the other person does not remove his mask.
Yeah, so I agree with that. We need to convince people, but again, it can lead to confrontations and all those things. So avoiding that diplomatically, make a sense of responsibility, instill a sense of responsibility into everybody, including us.
Yes. And just as a joke, but if you are in a car and you have only one mask, then should you wear it or should your driver wear it?
No, I think that should not be a possibility. You should have two masks. And in fact, the study that I showed you of the cloth mask and the medical mask efficiency, one of the situation was a car and the driver. So in which actually one of the individuals was actually infected with influenza virus, and they still were able to show in the closed space with the AC running on. So still there was a.
Yes. So it is very important that you pay attention to the mask that the person in front of you is wearing. People are more worried about the quality of the mask they are wearing. It is more important to worry about the quality of the mask that the person in front of you is wearing. Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to tell was there's a lot of worry about just talking with people on the street or talking in the society ground and things like that. When you are meeting somebody in an open space and talking for 5 minutes, is there any risk? Or is it mainly in a closed space?
Yeah, so if you look at what is close contact.
Unless the person is coughing directly, that's different.
Yeah, so in terms of closed contact, the definition usually is face-to-face contact at a distance of around 1 meter for more than 15 minutes without masks. So if you are having masks around, both ways, then I don't think it should be a problem in terms of routine talking or things like that. And if possible, if you can maintain a physical distance still in spite of the masks, it would be also really good.
Okay, so should we allow people to walk in the society without a mask in the open air? Or is it?
I would not recommend that. I mean, when we talk about universal masking, it's not just being open air, you're not wearing it. But if you're taking the lift, for example, what happens when you're walking from your house to you may meet somebody across, things like that. It's all theoretical, but I think it's always better to be take precautions.
So we should encourage people to keep wearing the mask continuously.
Yeah.
Okay. What about reuse of mask, disposal of mask?
Yeah, so essentially, if you're, and I'm thinking this is a community setting, so if you're talking about cloth masks.
Yes, I don't think, we are not talking about N95 and those medical.
Yeah, so that is not needed really.
Yes.
So for cloth masks, you can always launder it with a routine way as you launder it. Some people may want to use disinfectants, but that's really not needed. And then you can reuse it. Now, how many cycles you can launder it? Before the efficiency decreases is not clearly known, but if you extrapolate it from other cotton garments which we use in, say, operation theaters or something, it's 40 cycles. So perhaps you can use it for a month with repeated washing, and if you have 2 sets, then that is something which is good.
Okay, and disposal, because we are not encouraging those disposable surgical masks. Probably in our setting, you would advise to use those cloth masks.
Cloth masks are fine, yeah.
So we don't have the problem of disposing of.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the advice to senior citizens? There are many who are over 65, 70. I am reaching towards 63, 64. But what about those who are over 65, 70? What is the advice to senior citizens? What should their activity be? Should they go out of the house? Should they go for walking over here? Should they go to malls? And more important, many of them in many houses, there are teenagers living in the same flat as senior citizens. And probably people don't realize that the teenagers go around mixing up with other teenagers and they don't probably take as much precaution. And when they come back, they are putting their senior citizens at risk. So what would you advise?
Yeah, so right now the government policy is during this period of lockdown, when they are having an exit strategy, is to try to tell people that senior citizens should try and stay at home as far as possible and not really venture into the community. It's called shielding the elders. But shielding the elders, apart from whatever I said in terms of precautions that need to be taken, including universal masking, hand hygiene, if it's possible to not go into widespread community, avoiding mass gatherings, then it's always better not to do that. If you want to come out for a few time, make sure if you maintain physical distance and use a mask, briefly come out. I don't think there should be a problem. So essentially what we are talking about is using those principles of transmission and the ways you can prevent it. If you are alert enough to follow those, unfortunately, senior citizens have a higher risk of getting bad disease, and that is the reason why you need to really shield them. But at the same time, it's not just the responsibility of, as you mentioned, the senior citizens. Is the young people who are venturing out have as much responsibility of not getting the infection and transmitting it in the household to the senior citizens. So it's everybody's responsibility, really.
So you have to assume that if somebody goes out for work, comes back, or goes out and meets his friends and comes back, he has to be very careful that he does not transmit it to the seniors at home.
Yeah, first of all, he has to be careful he doesn't acquire it in the community, and then essentially make sure that, if, for example, if you are sick with fever or influenza-like symptoms, then you need to really shield yourself from the senior citizen, completely isolate. So that's a different thing, like isolation of a sick person at home. So,
okay, I'll take some more now questions. Mr. Raghu asks, can we wash fruits and vegetables in soap water and then in clean water and use? If not, what is recommended? What about food prepared by your maid?
Yeah, so essentially, there is no evidence that food is capable of transmitting CoV2. Again, if you're handling the food and if you're taking your hand to your face, then that can deposit theoretically, but it's very difficult to prove that. So what you can do is just wash it with the water and cook it the way you normally cook it. The heat inactivates the virus. We don't know still what temperature really is needed to inactivate, but most cooking processes should be really safe. And soap and water washing vegetables can be dangerous. Soap is not to be ingested.
Right. And your maids, when they come into the house, if they wash their hands and then cook your food, I suppose that's safe enough.
Yeah.
They are wearing a mask while cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you want to take things too far, then it becomes very difficult to live. So theoretically, these things are very, very minuscule kind of things. So we need not worry about it. Basic hand hygiene and basic food processing. I mean, that is what is required.
Okay. Then there's one query from Mr. Anandan, our president. The virus is active, supposed to be active on various surfaces like steel, wood, clothing, other. What about how many time, what time, hours, days is that? And is that really an important thing?
Yeah.
Because initially when people came, there was, newspaper also, and anything touching, anything coming from outside, people were scared.
Yeah. So again, this is in fact quite initially when this report was published about the long durability of the virus outside on surfaces based on what's cardboard or paper or steel surfaces. It was not live virus which was seen, which was studied. It was the viral nucleic material, which doesn't necessarily mean that the virus is live there. But right now, CDC at least believes that it's not really viable for a long period of time. And even if it is viable, the concentrations of the virus go down very dramatically based on humidity and temperature conditions outside as well. So the study that was done was in ideal situation in a lab experiment. So I don't think this should be really a big concern. Obviously, we should have, when we are handling things, make sure we have hand hygiene repeatedly after handling each thing that comes, a parcel comes to into your house and all those things. But I'm not really sure that that is the major way that the virus is getting transmitted.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been going around cleaning their doorknobs, cleaning the things. I mean, lots of things where somebody is sitting and also. So you can, I think the whole focus and aim has to be on the mask, making sure somebody is wearing a mask, you also wear a mask, and good hand hygiene, and all these other things are maybe 5% of the thing. If you have a lot of time, then go cleaning about the house. But
Yeah, so essentially, if you are handling anything and you are worried about that, the best way to prevent that is to
wash your
wash your hands.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Then Manjusha Deshmukh asks, once you get groceries from the shop, do you have to keep it outside for 24 hours and then start handling?
No, I don't think really we should be thinking about all
Same
this.
thing. Okay. So again, people have lots of worries about groceries, veggies, fruits. Do we need to do UV sterilization for domestic use of groceries, veggies, fruits, or parcel?
No.
How much time virus is alive on the surface? Again, you have answered.
Yeah.
Okay. Then for domestic help and visitors, is hand wash with soap and water better than sanitizer when they enter the apartment complex at the gate? So do we ask them to wash their hands at the gate, or at the gate sanitizer is?
There's
I
no
think washing.
Yeah, there's no harm in washing your hands as frequently as possible.
Okay.
So if you are washing it at the gate, okay. If you're coming, they are coming to your home, it's okay. So essentially, repeated hand washing will certainly help.
Okay. Raghu, one of our committee members, he's got a pet dog like mine. How to take care of pets when they go out and come back into? Do you wash their paws in soap and water?
Well, I don't think you should be worried about pets. There have been some reports of pets being infected with in the US with COVID-19, but transmission from pets to humans is not really.
And the pet is not going to pick it up from the ground.
Yeah. So essentially, again, whatever care you're going to take about with your pets, you should basically do that. But try and avoid, this pets going around to multiple places and all those kinds of things. So the CDC recommends that, make sure just as you have a discipline, the pets also have a discipline along with you.
So social distancing. Now my pet makes sure that nobody comes near me. So I'm automatically social distance when I go for a walk. Achha. So, but Raghu, the pet is going to pick up things from the ground when you take him out. So you do need to wash the paws with soap and water to prevent other diseases, not corona,
generally,
but other things.
Yeah.
Okay. Do hand wash soap and detergent water powders have the same effect in making corona ineffective? So is there any difference between the alcohol based thing or the soap? Actually, soap and water is better, no?
Yeah. So because this has a detergent effect on the lipid layer of the virus. So as I told in my presentation, that if you are talking about dirty surfaces or soiled surfaces, then soap and water is a better. And if you don't have access to soap and water, and if your hands are dry, or if you can't use soap and water on certain surfaces, then you can use alcohol-based disinfectant.
Okay. Raghu wants to know, when can we expect vaccine in India for the general public? We don't know.
Yeah, the true answer is we don't know. But there are two vaccines which are quite ahead in the race. One is the Moderna vaccine, which is in the US. It's an mRNA vaccine. The other is an Oxford vaccine. So already phase 1 study results are published now. And we hope that we will be able to have globally at least by early next year.
So it's still not known. Somebody in between, there were some articles which said that you will never get a vaccine. That is also not true.
Not true, because whether you get or not is something which is not really true. The past history is not very encouraging for coronaviruses.
Okay.
We have not had a vaccine for any coronavirus.
Okay. Then Ajay Bhagwat is asking, is the N95 mask necessary or simple cotton mask is okay?
So that I've already mentioned, N95 is only, even in the healthcare setting, for certain procedures only.
So basically, we are talking about community transmission. Here we want to prevent transmission to other people. So a simple mask is good enough. N95 is extremely uncomfortable and it's very suffocating. So people are not going to wear it for a long time, and then people pull it down and then it's worse than a simple cotton mask.
And we should remember that an N95 has a fit test. You have to fit it properly because it should tightly fit. And also has a seal check and all those things. So these are quite technical and should not be really.
Yes. So the difference between N95 and simple cloth mask is they are filters. So they completely, they are supposed to close everything and air is only going to. So you have to check whether air is leaking from the sides onto your glasses anywhere. So you have to do what is called a fit test. You have to remove it carefully. You have to put it carefully. It's a big complicated procedure. So N95 is not a simple thing. You just put on an N95. It is very complicated. You have to, if you are using it, you have to be very careful. You use it only if you are going in a high risk area, like a hospital or something like that. Or
Yeah,
if you,
and other thing is when you have this N95, people get a false sense of security.
yes,
You
yes.
have a very high level of a mask, but if you're not using it properly, it's not going to work.
If the person, Vinay Badera is asking, if a person is corona positive but not having symptoms and he gets cured without any treatment, anyway there is no treatment, or without anybody knowing, does he spread the infection?
Yeah,
So does an
asymptomatic.
asymptomatic person, somebody has no symptoms, can he spread the
Yeah,
infection?
so asymptomatics can spread the virus. It's not clearly known what proportion, whether they are more transmissible than the symptomatics. But I guess from the pure biology point of view, the symptomatics would transmit more because they are coughing and sneezing. That's quite a lot of droplets coming out. While an asymptomatic can transmit only with talking or singing, where the droplets may not.
Breathing, does breathing also
Yeah, so
cause
some people say even
little
breathing
bit?
can. There may be a possibility that asymptomatic people have lower viral loads in their, when they get infected, and that's why they remain asymptomatic. So the efficiency of transmission is not clearly known, but the problem is asymptomatics can't be diagnosed because unless and until you test them, you can't diagnose. And that is the reason why we need to potentially be also sure that asymptomatics are masked and they don't transmit.
Okay. Okay. Then Raghu asks again, why diabetic and heart patients and senior citizens are more prone to this disease? Are they more prone or they are more at risk if they do get it?
Yeah, so they're not perhaps more prone to get infected, but once they get infected, they are more prone for developing severe disease, critical disease. And there are various reasons for that. We clearly don't know any particular example, but usually you see for respiratory viruses, like say even influenza, elderly with comorbidities are always at a high risk to develop severe disease. Maybe because of the waning immune system, which they have, the comorbidities. I don't want to go into the technical aspects, but
Right.
the receptors in hypertension patients, things like that make them vulnerable to develop severe disease.
Okay. Mr. Amol Kirtikar is asking, what advice do you have for the senior citizens in our society? Is it safe for them to go out? वैताग आलाय घरी बसून.
So I told that it may be if you try to avoid congregations, because what happens is usually these people come together, sit on benches, in the garden and all those kinds of things. But if you are able to just maintain physical distancing, wear your mask, be briefly out, I don't think it should be a real problem. Though technically the government says you should not have them out.
Okay. So if they do go out and go for a walk, they should go on. They should not sit. We used to have people sitting in groups and chatting. That part
Absolutely.
should be definitely discouraged.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if a positive, Dr. Arun Jamkar is asking, if a positive patient enters a flat and leaves, what action is to be taken by that flat owner, and what action is to be taken by the society if we find that somebody was positive and did come into the society? So,
So that technically you need to really inform the authorities about a positive person coming to your society. The contact tracing guys will come. They will try to find out who has been exposed, who have a high risk versus low risk exposure. And I'll tell you, if you are wearing mask universally, usually that is considered low risk exposure, particularly if the patient was also wearing mask. So if at the entry point you don't allow people without masks coming into the society, so that would be a better way of trying to control this. If you find somebody who is positive at home or who has visited your home, then in that situation you need to really risk assess. You need to inform the authorities. And again, it's the same thing. You need to really monitor yourself for symptoms. If you have had a very close contact without mask, maybe get tested, because asymptomatic close contacts are recommended to be tested between day 5 to day 10. So all these things can be done, but nothing to really panic, because like closing the entire society or shutting down the entire society. So those things initially happened with the panic, but now I think we clearly know what is high risk, what is low risk, and what needs to be done in these scenarios.
Right. But at the same time, I think everybody who's entering your flat every day, you should think he might be positive and treat him accordingly.
Yeah, so potentially infection.
You must make sure that he's wearing a mask, he's
Yeah.
washing his hands when he comes, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Mr. Amit asks, what precautions should I take every time I re-enter the home from a short visit outside the home, like grocery shopping for a few minutes, and after attending office for a few hours?
Yeah, so essentially when you, assuming that you are wearing physical, you are maintaining physical distancing outside and you're wearing masks, nothing, you need to come in and you need to wash your hands again, because you may have touched common surfaces like lift, buttons and all those kinds of things. But these are really very, very minuscule proportion. Wash your hands, launder your, put your clothes for laundering, change into your household clothes, and that is all.
Okay. Mr. Vaidya, our secretary asks, what about eating fruits? Same.
What happened? It's good to eat fruits.
Yes. So, I mean, like you don't need to, you wash them like you normally would and eat them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Then, if you are walking alone and nobody else is around, do you have to wear a mask?
Normally, you see, if you expect that nobody is going to really meet you, and which is something which is difficult, then, for example, at an office where you're alone, for example, if you are having a single unit, you may not need to, if there are no guests coming or whatever.
if like me, I'm just living alone in my flat, I don't need to wear a mask when I'm sitting
Absolutely
alone.
no need. Actually,
Otherwise, me and Pico, my dog, both of us would have to wear masks. You know?
Yeah. No, but essentially, the social behavior, how likely you are not going to meet anybody.
You won't know. So when you set out of the house, best is to wear a mask.
Best is to wear a mask, yeah.
Okay. Sandeep Mutha is an anesthetist here. He's asking how to take care in your office and your office desk.
Again, it's the same thing. You maintain physical distancing between your employees. You need to wear masks in the offices. You need to screen out symptomatics. If there are any people who are saying that, fever screening at entry, or at the same time, if you have respiratory symptoms, tell your employees that just inform in advance and stay at home, or, access care or access testing. So prevent symptomatics from coming in, have a screening temperature. Once you have universal masking, and have cleaning of the environment. For example, at least in my clinic, but it's a clinic, we do it twice a day. But before anybody enters the office, have a cleaning done. And after everybody leaves, have a cleaning done. So that is something, or even once a day, either before entering or after everybody leaves, have a decent cleaning done. And for public spaces, very close public spaces, the government even recommends to use disinfectants. So you first, apply clean with soap and water, and then subsequently use a diluted bleach, and keep it contact time for around 10 to 20 minutes, and let it dry out, because bleach needs some contact time.
So 10-20 minutes. Achha.
Yeah.
Not just spray and wipe.
No.
Okay. Okay. Then Raghu asks, this we see lots of people, they are driving alone in a closed car. Do we need to wear a mask?
No need. I don't wear mask while I'm driving alone.
Is there any possibility of virus spreading through central AC?
Now, this is a concern that was there, because there was this aerosol transmission, smaller particles which can remain suspended in air. But CDC believes that, long distance suspended aerosols don't really transmit. But for ACs, the government has guidelines. So if I think in the malls, they are putting in HEPA filters for the ACs. If it's at the home, make sure that there is some ventilation available, so you can keep your windows a little open and keep the AC on. So I don't think AC is really split ACs, so definitely there should not be any problem. For centralized ACs, maybe putting in a HEPA filter, or keeping natural ventilation also simultaneously may really help.
Talking about HEPA filters, is having a HEPA filter useful either in the house or in those fans that you are getting now, Dyson air filters? Do you think it's worth having in the
No, I don't
clinic,
think,
in office, or?
for example, air being, first of all, aerosol based transmission is very less. It only happens in, intensive care situations where you have a lot of aerosols being generated because of intubation and all those kinds of things. Routine aerosol generation is not very common. So household, I don't think these filters that are available work, but what may work is a HEPA filter or treating the air with UV radiations and things like that, which are only necessarily needed for hospital-based.
Maybe malls or hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. Then again, if you are in a car with strangers, is it better to shut windows and use AC or open windows and turn off AC? I think if you are in a car with strangers, you must make sure that everybody is wearing a mask.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and I showed you the study really that, even with AC on, if everybody is masked, then there is a less likelihood. But as far as possible, try to not have strangers. Try to have minimum numbers of. So that's the way we need to live for a few months at least.
Yeah. Okay. Then again, vegetables washing with soap water. Somebody asking, already should not go. Should housing societies restrict or limit the number of domestic helps coming in as far as possible?
I will always see it two-way process. So just as they have, we have the risk from them, they have the risk from us as well. So in terms of, so economic situations and all those things, if we follow these precautions, we can get whatever housekeeps we are coming into our society. I don't think we should really shun them, because what is going to happen subsequently is that these people may be unemployed, and that will really cause problems for us, for a thing which we can be easily prevented, maybe like hand hygiene and masking and all those kinds of things. So I personally would not agree with that approach of trying to restrict these people, because we need to live with this virus. We can't really, over the next
so it's not going to be in after 15 days you can allow maids to come in. If you are,
need to get kind of ready to take this on.
So that is a very important thing, because at present in our society, at least, we have restricted the maids drastically, and we'll have to take a call on this. I suppose the managing committee will decide, but your suggestion is that we have to also think from their point of view, how long are you going to keep people unemployed?
Yeah.
And after 2 months also, this situation is going to be the same.
Same. Yeah. And perhaps maybe a little different after 2 months. There may be some treatment. We may know more about how to manage the disease. So maybe it is better to get sick if you want to get sick at a later time point, because we have more knowledge available. So, you can have both ways, but essentially have a balanced view.
Okay. Sandeep Mutha, again, our anesthetic is asking, how soon can we have a nice gym in our society, but it's not functional. So how soon can the gym become functional? What precautions do we have to take when it starts?
So again, this is a thing like a theater, cinema theater. You have a closed space, and if you have a lot of people, best to avoid. At this point of time, best to avoid.
Okay.
And the gym is somewhere, it's very difficult for us to mask in the gym and do our,
But what if you, you can't do really. Even if you keep the windows and things open, there's still not ventilation.
And maintaining physical distance and all those. At this point of time, I think it's not a good idea. Maybe later on in further phases of our exit.
Can we think of allowing one person at a time into the gym?
Yeah, if you can. See, right now, gyms, the government regulation is closed. So I can't.
So forget it. Okay. Then Raghu asks, can we differentiate corona cough from normal flu at home? No, otherwise we wouldn't need a blood test.
Yeah.
I mean, that test. There's no way of knowing without the test.
No way.
Archana Badera is asking, there is a message on the WhatsApp guru which says that wearing mask for a long time reduces oxygen level in your blood. Is that true?
No. There is no evidence for that.
So Sunita Kele asks, can you have a guest or relative come in, and what precautions should you take? Same as the maid.
Yeah.
Sandeep is asking, what is the chance of virus staying on benches?
I think we talked about it, and I mean,
Yes.
it's very theoretical. But if you are cleaning those benches, you know, twice a day or something, the normal society cleaning that happens, that should be enough.
So, but we don't want to promote people going and sitting on benches. So, best not to clean them.
Yeah, that's up to you.
परत लोक तिथे जाऊन बसायला लागतील. Okay. Ranjan Belkode asked, are there any UV based products for domestic use, and is it effective in this situation?
At this point of time, I don't think we should be really thinking about it. Now, people are trying to use UV lamps or something for, you know, cargo which comes in or packages which come in. Again, we don't know what is you know, if you get UV exposure yourself, it's quite dangerous.
Right.
Because the wavelengths needed for that to inactivate the virus can be harmful to us. So rather than thinking about this, better is to use hand hygiene.
Okay. Then Prakash Misa asks, how effective are gloves in a public place? So I think people have the concept about gloves protecting you. So can you explain what role gloves play?
Now, gloves are basically for fluids. You see, if you have a fluid which is having, say, a secretion, body secretion or something which is having the virus, then it will basically prevent your direct contact of the intact skin with that fluid. But to assume that the virus enters through your hand is not something which is possible. Your hand taking it finally. So even with your gloved hand, if you're taking your gloved hand to your face,
Yes.
that would have the same kind of risk.
So even if you wear gloves, you have to wash your gloves and sterilize. So,
so it's
I mean, whether you wash, I don't use gloves because it's simply adding one more level of discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely. Rather than that, have your hand washed every time.
Yes. Because anyway, if you wear gloves, you have to wash and you have to sanitize the glove. So
it's the same thing.
Yes.
Whether it's hand or a glove.
Only thing, probably you don't rub your nose with the glove as much as you with your
quite
hands.
Repelling.
but there are all a lot of discomfort. Okay, what about elevator? How many people should be in the elevator?
No, that's a difficult question. Really, it's depending on the size of a elevator and different kinds. Now, if you are masking, everybody is masked, and if you are able to maintain a distance of 1 meter in the elevator, whatever the elevator takes should be okay. Okay,
the elevators are not 1 meter, but can we say one thing, that if two people are in the elevator, they must be both masked, or we should just make a general rule ki at one time only one person goes in the elevator?
No, everybody should be masked. That is universal. And your elevator, if you are able to maintain around a distance of 1 meter, two people can always go. Now, this is again, there's no evidence for what I'm telling. It's just common sense trying to apply these principles. But
our elevator are not that big, so 1 meter peksha jawal ahe, at least the smaller elevators.
Okay.
So maybe we can tell people ki at one time let one person go. As it is, hardly people are going anywhere. So
yeah.
Then Soha Mehta asks, how do we take care when we go to a hospital? If somebody is pregnant and delivering soon, how do we take care in the hospital and for the newborn?
Yeah, so in the hospital, for example, the same processes are there. Universal masking is recommended in the hospital. Don't touch surfaces as much. Maintain your hand hygiene. Keep your hospital visit very brief. Try to avoid hospital visits as far as possible. But if it's unavoidable, keep it brief. Maintain a mask. Have a hand hygiene, and that should be able to take care of it.
Okay. So Sangani asks, are Indians protected from corona to some extent, as we have taken BCG vaccine at birth?
At present, there is no evidence to suggest that, but it's an interesting hypothesis and studies are going on to look at that.
Okay. Amit asks, is it essential to wear hand gloves during short grocery shopping visits and at workplace?
So if it helps you in terms of having a sense of protection, you can always wear it, but make sure that you dispose it off properly after wearing it. Otherwise, you can just use hand hygiene.
Yeah, and even when you are wearing a glove, you have to wash the glove. Yeah. Wash the hand with the glove, and you have to dip. So you have to do whatever you are doing without the glove, you have to do with the glove.
With the glove, yeah.
Okay, Dinesh asks, there are some face shields that have come. Do they have any significant advantage over simple cloth masks?
Well, in outside the hospital settings, I don't think you need a face shield. A face shield is only need when you expect a splash or something. You know, a patient is coughing directly. If you already are taking a mask in a community setting, maintaining physical distance. In hospitals, we need to be very close to patients. So that
Right.
unfortunately we can't really avoid. In community,
And
you can avoid that, and that's why.
what a mask is doing, mask is preventing you from transmitting the disease. A face shield does not do that.
Yeah.
Mm, is a scarf okay? Sunita Kale is asking for a, just
Yeah,
putting a
so
scarf over your.
currently any form of cloth mask is recommended. Scarf, bandanas,
त्याचे
t-shirt.
किती लेअर करायचे काय असं?
Now that depends on how more layers, more difficulty in breathing also. So normally 2 or 3 layers should be okay.
Okay. Amol Kirtikar is asking, India has 3,850 deaths so far. How many of these were senior citizens?
I don't know the exact latest figure, but I think around 60% are more than 65 years.
Okay. Okay. Then Manjusha Deshmukh wants to know, can we use sanitizer on the outer cover of the plastic that covers bread when you do you need to desanitize the bread?
I don't think you really need to. Again, it's how is it going to transmit is if you handle that thing, you don't use hand hygiene and you touch your face and nose. So if you avoid it,
eating it anyway does not, and probably you will have toast. So the virus will also become toast. So. Okay, Archana Badera asks, most of the time when people are put mask, they keep removing the mask when they're alone and again putting it back without washing the hand. How safe is that?
No, so that is also not very safe. Whenever you handle your mask, you should try to, as far as possible, do a hand hygiene. But again, what happens is when you're handling and if there are some viruses, theoretically, again, on the outer surface of the mask, your hands get contaminated. So that is the reason why you should do repeated hand washing and try to, as far as possible, not handle the mask very frequently.
Okay, and if you handle a mask, it should be hold the sides, not the front.
Yeah.
And at least not the part which is facing your nose.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Vaidya asks, if a maid is coming from an area which is near the vicinity of a family where a member was found positive. So recently we found that in Gokhale Nagar, a lot of our maids come from Gokhale Nagar. So nearby some positive patients have been found. But nearby means they are more than half a kilometer away, most of them. So is that any cause for concern?
Really, for example, right now, if you look at the policy, we have containment zones, and anyway, containment zone people are not left out of that containment zone. So whatever people are moving around are outside the containment.
They are safe.
So you should be safe. Yeah.
What is the risk associated with going for dental treatment or eye treatment?
Well, right now the government has already released dental guidelines, and they have clearly said that apart from emergency dental procedures in hotspots, dental clinics should not open. So it may be very difficult for you to get any routine dental treatment because dentists are advised not to open their dental clinics.
And eye treatment?
Eye treatment, you can go. Eye ophthalmologists are also modifying their practices. So they are also screening for respiratory illness prior to taking appointments. They're keeping distance. They're putting a shield between the patient when they are examining. And so it's possible you need to check with your ophthalmologist for that.
Okay. The hand gloves are already sangitla. In offices, many people use the common toilet. So what is the risk of getting infection through using common toilet?
At present, fecal-oral transmission or sharing toilet seats is not thought to be the mode of transmission of this virus, but it's always better to disinfect, keep clean, and after you use a toilet, always as usual you do a hand hygiene. So
okay, then do we need to keep an oximeter at the gate to check people coming in, or just the temperature?
It's too technical, because what happens is everybody you need to really check the oxygen saturation below a cutoff. I mean, it becomes too theoretical. You can do it.
So temperature is more than enough.
Yeah, even
and asking for symptoms.
Yeah, temperature screening and symptom screening. So for example, now airports are opening up. They are not using oximeters. They are using temperature screen.
Okay, Dr. Arun Jamkar again asks, if your maids are coming from a catchment area where there are positive patients around, do they carry more risk? So around means Kai again. If
There
the
is
government,
containment zone, there is a buffer zone, and then there are hotspots. The entire Pune is a hotspot.
right.
Essentially, uh, if they are in the containment zones, as I mentioned before, they're anyway not getting out. So the most risk is in the containment zone.
Okay, then again, disinfectant. Do you need to spray packets and bread, etc., with disinfectant spray?
See, if you want, you can do it. But I think if you are able to do hand hygiene, I think it should be able to take care of it.
म्हणजे the material inside the bread or the food is not going to transmit. By touching the thing and then you touch your hand to your face, you will get. So if you wash your hand, you don't need.
Yeah.
Same thing, Sunita Kele is handling a lot of currency. She wants to know how to handle currency.
You handle currency and wash your hands.
Okay. Is ordering food from outside safe in this situation? Prasodkar wants to know.
It's the same thing. I mean, in fact, there is a lot of precautions being taken at the restaurant level and the delivery services as well. So be rest assured, if you also take the precaution, it's additive and it doesn't really make
so Amazon packets and these food wale je deliver karta mala naw nahi athvat, those are you can take routine. Are people who are cancer survivors more at risk in any way, or
survivors or active cancers?
Survivors.
Okay, who have already finished their cancer.
Yes. They are not on chemotherapy.
Yeah, so it's less likely that these people are at a higher risk. We still don't have, big numbers to really look at it, but people who are immunosuppressed, cancers on active chemotherapy or HIV, for example, have a higher risk of developing a severe illness. But again, this is evolving because there are some reports saying that actually these people are not at higher risk as well. So we need to see that.
Okay. And then Manju Munod wants to say that it's being said that most of us are likely to get infected sooner or later. How true is that?
It's possible that significant proportion of our population will eventually get infected. But that doesn't mean that we should be not cautious and go ahead and get infected. That's the price for that would be large mortality, and that is the reason why we.
So maybe can I put it this way, that if 10,000 people get the illness over the next 1 year, our hospitals and the government can handle it. But if 10,000 need admission in the next 1 week,
yeah,
it's going to be disaster.
So
we want to slow down and spread out the infection.
Yeah.
So everybody is going to get probably infected sometime or the other, and you would breathe a sigh of relief if you get infected and come out, but because then you have immunity. Yeah. But we don't want to purposely get infected.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the herd immunity thing? What is the thing about herd immunity?
So in herd immunity, naturally you get infected and you assume that you are protected, and then about 60% to 70% of population, once it gets infected, you will have stopping the transmission of the virus. Now that is again, as you said, a very high price to pay, because you will have suddenly high amounts of people accessing healthcare, and healthcare sector will be overwhelmed with it. So better way to have a herd immunity is to have a vaccine and develop antibodies against it, because herd immunity technically is a concept for vaccine. It's not a concept normally applied in epidemiology for natural infection.
Okay, Sunita Kele asked a very important question. Will the homeopathic tablet, is it useful to increase immunity?
At this point of time, there is no evidence for that.
Yeah, and there is a lot of WhatsApp messages going about homeopathic. Vitamin D, high doses of vitamin D.
Again, no evidence. You have to just see whether it harms or not.
Right. At least vitamin D, high doses will harm. Homeopathic harms your pocket, I suppose. But if you want to take it, take it. Amit asks, why do we see more number of cases in India in some A-class metros or B-class and much less in other metros? Why is it more in Bombay, Pune, for example?
Yeah,
and
so I think it's the same thing, the population density, the congregation of people, and even amongst these metros, if you see, it is where there is high population density. The containment zones are where, you have these people congregating together. So that is the reason why you see high infections.
Okay. Then the last question, Raghu Jorapur wants to know, I think it's a fitting question to him. Is reinfection a possibility?
At present, we don't know very clearly, but right now the evidence is suggesting there was a Korea study from Korea which showed that reinfection may not be a real threat.
Right. So first, let us not get infected, then we'll worry about reinfection later. Okay, I think Sanjay, thank you very much. It was very useful, and I hope it solves many of the problems that we all are grappling with, and our managing committee is trying to do. They are also don't know exactly what to do, because every decision that they take, somebody or the other is of course going to find problems and point. And I think this might help them to take further decisions.
So I would,
what about hydroxychloroquine?
For prophylaxis.
Yes.
So right now it is only recommended for healthcare workers and other frontline workers. So it's and asymptomatic contacts of laboratory proven patients. So right now not for
okay, so normal people should not be taking hydroxychloroquine. It has got risk, cardiac risks, etc., and so you should not take it. Huh? And I join Amit and everybody else. I think he's saying thanks a million for the educative session, and we all thank you, Sanjay, for taking out the time.
Thank you. Before leaving, I just want to make a simple thing that, most of this information is coming through social media to majority of the lay people. The best resource for guidelines is the Ministry of Health and Welfare website for the Government of India. They have guidelines for practically everything, including how workplace, travel, and everything. So keep that as a point of information to make any decision.
Okay, can you send me that website? So I will send it on our we'll ask Amol to give it to send it to all the people.
Yeah, I will WhatsApp it to you.